Hello and welcome to Aquarium Dilemmas. I'm your host, ScienceGal Aquatics. I'm Carrie, and this is my co-host,
Jesse, and welcome.
Yes, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here listening to our podcast and that you're here with us, so thank you so much.
We have another wonderful, exciting dilemma today, one that is near and dear to our hearts, so to speak.
It's near and dear to my heart in the fact that I cannot stand this problem.
Well, it's something that we battle every day.
Because
every
of our
week,
area, yes.
Every month. It's nonstop. It's something that we have to deal with. It is a wonderful white residue that will build up on your aquarium.
Yes.
As the water evaporates, or even when you do a water change, you'll notice a slight white film on your aquarium. Hard water.
Yes, just the hard water buildup. I've heard it called calcium buildup, water scale, lime scale. It's just because we have really hard water. It's something that I battle, and I just cannot stand the look of it. But kind of jumping back a little bit, if you have this, you know what it is. For some reason you don't know what this is. Why don't you help me explain what exactly is this? Like, why do we battle this?
Well, all the fish that you keep primarily to a degree enjoy hard water.
Yes.
So for our instance, the dilemma is we don't want to soften our water because the fish enjoy it. However, for your tanks and maintenance, you're going to have this residue. You cannot stop it. There's no way you can control it, really.
And through the years, I've learned a few tips that have definitely, it's not as bad. But again, when I was a beginner fish keeper, or the period where I really didn't know what I was doing, I had this residue even on the picture frames behind my fish aquariums. It was on the wall. It was built up on the filter. It was on the glass. Like, you could, when your tanks evaporate a little bit, you have that water line. You can see the hard line because of the where this is at. And it was just, I do enjoy my hard water. Like you said, my fish really enjoy the fact that I have hard water, and I keep fish that enjoy my water. But I do not like the look of calcium buildup and lime scale on my lids, on my light, on, again, my walls. I just don't like the look of it. And not knowing exactly how to fix it, I would scrub, and it would still be there. And I just didn't know how to fix it. So, well,
let's jump back just a step, and I'll explain a little bit about it. That hard water you're talking about, that you explained every reason why you absolutely dislike it and distaste it, but the fish that you keep primarily love it because you don't have to add anything to the water to make the water harder.
Yes.
Well, in our area, whether it's a well or you're getting it from the city, our water comes out of the ground naturally harder. We have a lot of limestone in the area, which contains calcium and calcium carbonate, which is the solid form of, basically, calcium carbonate is limestone. It's a rock.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a rock. Well, the water around here has to come up through that rock. So by that fact, it picks up minerals, and we've talked about in earlier podcasts. That's just part of the mineralization process. Water will pick up any particulates it goes through, whether it be soil, what type of rock. And with the hard water, it's usually calcium and magnesium, but primarily it's calcium.
Yes.
And that is our main problem, is the calcium side.
Yes.
Which is dissolvable in that water.
Yeah,
water, and it picks it up.
It's a softer rock. You can literally kind of flake it with your fingernail, but it's soluble.
Yeah.
like you said, it's gonna dissolve in your water.
Well, when water runs across it, creeks, rivers, whatever, doesn't matter, and it goes into the ground, well, it's picking up all those particulates, and that's causing the mineralization. So you're going to have a certain amount of that calcium in your water. Well, around here, we got a lot of limestone. So you're going to have a lot more calcium in your water.
Yeah, and you can have a water softener and it helps, but we do not. And even like when you take a shower, it's just everywhere. Anywhere you have running water. It's in our wash machine, our dishwasher. Like it's a thing in our area that we definitely you're gonna have it.
Yeah, and a water softener would help to a point, but our water is considerably hard.
Yeah.
It will help. However, anyway, moving forward, we use a water conditioner on our tap water. We primarily use Prime or some other brand, or we just let the water sit and let the chlorine gas off because we do have city water. However, that mineral calcium is still present in the water.
Yes. And it's important for your fish because you need it for the fish to grow. You need it for eggs if you wish to breed. The shrimp, they need calcium. Your snails. It's a vital element. Calcium is an element, whereas calcium carbonate or bicarbonate, it's an element. It's a compound element, I guess, is how technically going back to like science class, but
it's a primary element.
It's important to have, especially for our fish that enjoy the hard water. That's why
they need it.
Yeah, it's important. Just kind of explaining what it's an important thing. You need it for life. You don't want to get rid of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why they told you when you were a kid, drink milk. Yeah. That's the calcium, makes you strong bones.
But the residue that it leaves behind, I don't very much appreciate. But just kind of explaining where it comes from. There's some things like I've used certain sands. I like paver sand. And the reason paver sand I like it is because it has a calcium carbonate additive to it.
Yeah.
But there's mainly I get it introduced because like you said, it's our water.
Yeah.
It's just
our water primarily, if you test our water, it tests out hard right out of the gate.
Yeah, it's hard water.
Without adding or subtracting anything to it, it tests hard.
Yeah.
And so when we put that in the fish tank and we're setting up a new tank, we've put whatever substrate in, plants, put the water in, let it cycle. There's some main factors you want to consider on when you're doing that, of lids and lights and certain things, because you will have a buildup on that of calcium.
Yes. If that water can splash and hit something, it's going to probably build up a residue in that spot. If the water's splashing and you don't wipe it down or something or clean it up, that's the reason I had residue on my picture frames and on my wall behind.
Well, because there was no lid on that tank.
There's no lid. So having a lid and really cutting down on that splashing. Being aware when I was doing water changes back in the day, I was not really paying attention to the flow in which the water would go into the tank. I sometimes would have it, because I would fill the tank up with 1 gallon like bucket. So sometimes I would just lop it in and sometimes I would slow down. During that point when I was in my late teens, I just was oblivious to some things, or I would spill something and I would have like a crine going down the tank or something. It's just, if the water can splash, or because of our water is so hard, it's going to leave that. So be aware, having a lid, if you have some kind of filter that splashes, or you're a little bit messy like me sometimes, you're going to have, and like you said on the lights too, sometimes just being that close to the tank, if you don't have some kind of lid as a barrier, you're going to get that. And it's
you're going to get that blowback from that water,
yeah,
and you're going to notice your light.
Kind of,
you're going to think your light is failing or dimming. It is not. It is getting a calcium film completely over that light, the fixture of your light, and causing it to look dimmer.
Yeah, and same with, we have some they're like little bird feeder fountains, little solar powered fountains in the outside tubs. And just floating in the tubs, it slowly through from summer to summer, you could see it just kind of gradually going down, because it wasn't that it wasn't charging from the sun. It was just had scale build up all over the little fountain holes that it needed to work. So it's just one of those things that's really unsightly. And if you allow it, if you catch it in the beginning, it's way easier and less work to get it off. But if you let it build up in some instances, like I have, it can be a little difficult to make that tank look completely new again because of all that hard water buildup.
Yeah, and we'll get to the ultimate, like, have to clean everything off. Mm-hmm. But let's start with the few tips that we have for just kind of keeping the calcium down. Mm-hmm. And if your fish enjoy harder water, how to just kind of keep the look of your tank a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because to me, it's not that my fish are happy and healthy regardless if I have calcium buildup on the lip of the tank. It's
the fish don't care what the glass looks like. They just enjoy their water parameters.
Like, looking at them right now, they're happy. And if you want to sign up for a membership by chance on YouTube under ScienceGal Aquatics, it's 99 cents. You can see the tanks in the background. But getting back on point, like, it's just, for me, it's one of those things that is a dilemma, because it's I don't like. I don't look. In like our last discussion, a dirty tank isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in this case, it looks dirty because it makes it look unkept, because it's just got this
serious
crusty
white film
thing all over
it.
it. But depending on if I have fish in the tank, I have drastic different measures on how I get rid of it.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. With fish in the tank, again, the first couple things I can highly recommend is don't have a filter. Have a filter that's adjustable to where you know the flow of that filter, or it's directional where you can turn the tubes so that you can point it down into the water and it's not making such a big splash.
Yeah.
A high flow filter in a hard water tank, your glass is going to get speckled really quickly.
I guess in that situation, sometimes you can't really control the output speed. Some filters you can, but it's really keeping up on your maintenance, not letting your tank evaporate down.
That's where a lid comes into play.
And I've had periods, honestly, where sometimes I'm really on my maintenance. And I've had times where I've just been kind of down in the dump and doing tank maintenance. It's that first step, getting started, is a little difficult. Sometimes once it gets started, I'm fine, but it's getting started and it evaporates down and you have that line that's on your glass. But mainly, like you said, having your tank it doesn't have to be like every Tuesday, like we've said in the past. Sometimes your tank only needs maintenance once a month. But if you've noticed your tank having where you have a lot of evaporation, and then I don't recommend you just topping it off all the time, but where you have it where your tank evaporates down and then your filter isn't quite, the water line's not that high, so it splashes.
Yeah. That's the time you could do that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That's when I notice I have more of that buildup. And it's not, if you had a filter, that would be great if you could adjust the flow. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But really paying attention and not letting your tank constantly just evaporate off and having your hang on. It's mainly my hang on the backs, but sometimes sponge filters too, where it's just extra splashy. Having a lid on it will help with evaporation and not having splashing. So having a lid, I didn't realize how important it was to the overall just health of your tank, but having a lid is a good idea. Not all of my tanks currently do they have a lid? Not all of them do, but the ones that do, they do better. They just do better. But that's probably a good tip, that just don't let it constantly evaporate down, because that's when I have the biggest problems with this.
Well, as you mentioned, that would be the time. If you notice it just dropping a little bit, you could do that top off before your next actual water change, and it's not going to hurt, depending on the size of the tank, obviously, and what you have in it.
Yeah,
but it's not going to hurt anything. And before you do that top off, next kind of little insider tip is go ahead and use a sponge, aquarium sponge, or whatever you got. If you're noticing it just dropping and it's not dry yet, that lime scale will just wipe right off.
Yeah.
Because the difference between calcium carbonate, which is lime scale, that's in its hard form, and present in water, it's just called calcium bicarbonate. That's before it gets out of the water, evaporates off of it. Once the water evaporates, it dries, and then it's back to its solid status.
Yeah, but going back a little bit to what you just said, I don't necessarily I top off my tanks all the time, but not as much as I used to. Usually it's in a pinch, and it's usually the tanks that I don't have the lids on. So having a lid is just a good idea, because the ones that do have lids, I don't have to do that top off. They're usually good. Have they evaporated down just a little bit? Yes, with the lid, but it's not as drastic as when they don't have a lid. And so if, like, the 55-gallon guppy tank, it doesn't need a water change as much as a 10-gallon tank. So it's just, the tank does better. You don't have to do those emergency top-offs because it's evaporated down so much. But sometimes
I'm not calling it an emergency top-off. I'm calling it a maintenance, like, you see the lime scale building up and you're like, oh, I don't like that. I'm calling it a maintenance top off, not an emergency top. It's the fish are fine, everything's fine. You just don't like the look of the tank.
Yeah, I just
you're
don't
you're
like the
just
look
getting
of
that
it.
little bit of those little white spots are starting to pop up on that tank. You're noticing that the water's starting to evaporate a little bit, and you're not enjoying it. So hit it with a sponge, hit it with an old credit card.
Yeah, there's all kinds of little tricks I've learned along the years of how to combat it, but just really having a lid makes a whole bunch of difference. But if I have fish in the tank and I have let it drop down a little bit and I do have that line that's developing, like you said, a credit like an old hotel key, an old debit card works fantastic, like surprisingly well. I still kind of gravitate to a razor blade, but if you have acrylic tanks, I wouldn't use that. But when I started modifying my filters and I started having more of that sponge, that aquarium sponge in the fish room, that does work really well. But for the stuff that's been on there for a while, that you can't just scrub off with the scrub, like a sponge, a credit card or a razor blade is what's going to get that off.
Razor blade works best on glass. It really
You're going
does.
to have a mess in your tank. It's going to dirty up your tank. So I recommend, if you can, do that first. I have a tendency to do that first and then do a water change after, because it's, no matter how hard you try, that's all going to kind of fall down in your tank to an extent.
Yeah. And that's the deal. If you just scrape it off back into the tank and don't do the water change, obviously that much more calcium is going to be present in your water.
Yes.
It will kind of dissolve again, and when it evaporates more, there it will be again.
But that's what the top offs, again, kind of the main point that I learned about topping off is, I didn't give it much thought, but all that stuff that's in your water, that doesn't evaporate off. That's the reason why this is left behind. The water evaporates off, but the minerals that's in your water does not evaporate off. It's still left behind.
Well, we'll kind of hit on it a little bit, and we need to do another episode about minerals. You're adding it via a bottle of something you have bought, or vicariously through putting in a piece of wood, a piece of stone, something else. There's all those different minerals are going into this tank, whether you know it or not.
And I just have experience with really low tech freshwater tropical tanks. If you keep freshwater tanks or anything like different from me, this is just a freshwater. We probably should say that again. But yeah, there's all different types of ways, and there's more aquarium products than I ever imagined. There's all different types of products for everything you could possibly think of. But for this particular problem, I feel like it's mainly introduced just because of when we do water changes and just our water. But yeah, there's anything you introduce to your tank to an extent in some aspect it's gonna
change your water parameters as far as you're remineralizing, and that can change your pH a little bit up or down, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between, like, there's inert substrates and active substrates, and some of them do more, but for the general overall purpose, yeah, there's all different types of different things out there that you just have to be aware of what's going into your water, because you do want to keep it, that's your fish's home. You want to keep it as clean, and the water parameters are super important. But going back to this topic, calcium is important. It's just the unsightly left behind residue that doesn't evaporate out along with the water.
Yes. And for the first time aquarium hobbyist, it would be test your water. If you're going to use your tap water, test your water right out of the gate to know if your water's hard like ours, or maybe it's a lot softer. It's very possible it's a lot softer.
Yeah.
We in our area just have generally a lot harder water.
Yeah, and I used to know more, pinpoint what it was. I don't know, honestly, 100% that it's a blah, blah, blah on the scale. It just reads really hard. But I think the main concern is to know if your water is hard or soft, because the fish you can keep are different. Even there's some hard water and soft water plants out there too, I believe. So it's important to know. You might not know the 100% number on the scale, but it's important to know if
you're leaning one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important. But if I have a brand new tank, or a tank I've picked up along the way and there's no fish in it at all, to get rid of this and to shine it up as best I can to go back to as new as I can make it look, I use water and vinegar and some cleaning power and some razor blades and a scrub brush, and I just try to get it off with vinegar and water, because there's no fish in there. I will let it set for a little bit and let it dry. Like, the water's still in there. It's filled a little bit, but the spot around the water line, that's usually, it's at the top of the tank that you have more of a problem with it. And I'll let that kind of dry, and then I'll see what's left behind. Then I'll hit it again with some water and vinegar and scrub on it some more until I slowly chip it away. But I haven't found like a magical product that works better than scrubbing it and vinegar and water. Just white vinegar, distilled vinegar.
Well, and I mean, that goes back to the scientific fact that calcium is a base and vinegar is an acid. They counteract each other. And that's why the vinegar eats the calcium off the side of the tank, basically. So if you're resetting up an old tank that you've had and it's got a lot of residue on it, and you've taken everything out of it and you've dumped all the water out of it, yeah, that's the best thing to go with. Vinegar. Throw vinegar in there and water in there and go to town with a razor blade, unless it's acrylic, obviously. Then whatever you do, don't use a razor blade on acrylic.
But I guess kind of the reason why one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this topic is because through the years and my various stages of fish keeping and what I've known, I have overlooked many aquariums because I've looked at them at a yard sale or an auction or whatever it might be, that you see a used aquarium that's just sitting on the shelf and it looks horrible. Like, it just looks like it's seen better days because it's from the top of the rim where you can literally see the years of being unkept as the water line goes down. And it's always probably like 6 inches of just, and I've just looked like that tank is just like, no, I'll just buy a new one. I don't want to mess with that. I don't know how to get rid of it. I've scrubbed. it just always looks bad. I'm not going to do that. And now that I've learned this little, I call it trick hack about how to make them clean them up and make them look good, you can see the potential in that fish tank now. Whether it's a little 10-gallon or we've picked up a 55-gallon at a yard sale and the silicone looked great. Like we've learned to re-silicone. So even that we can look past and you can just see the potential in all of the cool species of fish that you can keep in that. And it might be just a dirty old aquarium on a sidewalk for $5. But when you have kept fish and you have multiple tanks and you're always, whether you're looking or not, you're always looking. And you just see that now that you know this little trick and you know how to combat this problem is there's ways to avoid it, as simple as having a lid and not splashing. Yes. But you can just see that and just see the potential and you don't have to look past it.
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
a secret little treasure that you know you can take home and make it look just good as new and have years with that little, and then have a story be like, I totally picked that up for $5. I made it look good again. And now look at all this beautiful stuff that's in this tank.
Absolutely. When I see a tank like that, what I see is they tried to have an aquarium and see the lines, and they didn't do water changes, or if they did, they didn't clean the glass. However, and then they got to a point, either the fish died, something happened, they didn't want to do it anymore. They dumped the water out, they set the thing aside, threw it in their garage, and that's where it's set. And that was it. And the calcium, water's gone. It just dries up. It's hard. Goes back to a solid state, and there it is.
Yeah, in years past, I didn't look at it as to talk to them to know why. But now, since we do all this cool fish stuff, we do have more of a tendency when we see stuff to be like, so what happened? Why do you know? But in years, as I've learned this, I would just see the potential. But I will be honest, now that we have the podcast and the community on YouTube's grown, now we just talk about fish to whoever will listen. But I'm hoping maybe like if you go to, I don't know, like the Salvation Army or a resale shop or a secondhand shop or whatever it might be, and you see something like this, maybe you can look at it differently and maybe you can clean it up with some vinegar and water and a razor blade or something like that, and then you can have the opportunity to try something. Maybe you've only had one tank and you want to give a second one a shot, but it was just too expensive. So maybe this can help you. If you see something, just be like, hey, maybe it's my chance to get another tank.
That's right.
Because it could be I know, just looking.
And vinegar is still cheap.
Yeah.
You can get distilled vinegar is still cheap. You can get a big old gallon jug real cheap.
It's one of those things that you keep in the fish room. And when you need it, you need it. And when you don't, you don't. But it's always somewhere in the fish room. It's one of those things. And sometimes, like, if you have a decoration piece or something that, it's not so much decoration pieces with me. It's more of something with my filter, where the water's dropped a little bit and it's just a line. Sometimes I'll stick that filter in a bucket and kind of scrub it down with a little bit of vinegar and water and let it dry overnight,
and that's the
and
side
stick it
note
back.
To say that vinegar is not harmful to the fish.
I wouldn't recommend putting a whole bunch in there, but if you get a little bit in there, it's okay.
You can spot clean with it, but you can't don't pour it in the tank.
Yeah.
Is what I would say. You could spot clean with it if you had a really hard spot you were just trying to work on.
Yeah.
And you wanted to speed it up, but don't. I do not pour
sometimes
vinegar in your tank.
With a little bit larger tank sizes, like you have that center brace.
Yeah.
That I always hit my elbows on or something, and you're just kind of always in the way, but it's very important to your tank. That's usually another spot that I have this on that's heavier than most, and I won't pour it on that, but I'll put it on a paper towel and let it soak, and then kind of scrape on a little bit. So I'm being a little bit more cautious, but it's an occasion where you can't take that out to put it in a bucket, but it does get build up on it that I don't very much appreciate, and I'll let it kind of soak a little bit on like a vinegar soaked paper towel. Just set it on that spot to where it's not dripping. Yeah,
surface.
It's not dripping. It's just on, so, and then it's a little bit more easy to loosen up to get rid of.
Well, it's the same concept as people that are over very protective of their plants. You can do the cotton swab and the peroxide to get algae. It's the same thing. You can spot clean with it.
You can spot, but I use it for when let's say like the little hanging thing next to you that I put fish in before I put them in the tank. I'll rinse that out every time I use it. But rinsing it out doesn't get rid of that. And sometimes it looks foggy. It just doesn't look
the breeder
clean.
box?
It's not a breeder box. It just hangs on the side.
On the collection.
Yeah.
Collection box.
I'll use it to put fish in, and then before I put them in there, right after I'll take them out of the fish bag type of thing. And you can tell it's got a buildup on it. It's just got, like on your shower curtain or your shower doors, just that residue on it. And I'll put that sometimes in vinegar and water and scrub it down real good and then let it dry off to the side before I use it again. But it's just a good cleaning tool to get rid of that. You still have to kind of scrub on a little bit, but it drastically helps.
It turns down the amount of elbow grease you have to use to get it off.
Yes. But do you have anything else to add on the topic?
No, the main thing is less splashing and a lid.
Yes,
Evaporation is your enemy against calcium. If your water is evaporating out of your tank, you are going to have this if you have hard water.
Yeah. And I guess, too, like looking around, another thing we kind of have was some of the tanks have heaters. And being careful, I'll let those again soak in some vinegar and water when they're not plugged in or anything. I'll take them out of the tank and just lightly. I don't use a razor blade on those, but you can kind of slowly chip away on it with something you find, like a debit card or a credit card, something not as sharp because it's a glass heater. But yeah, it's just mainly it's not bad for the fish, like I said, but it's just really unsightly. And it's one of those things
unsightly, not the fish.
That sometimes I would get it's just one of those things that's just, is it significant by itself? No, but it's one of those things that kind of builds up when you don't know what you're doing and you want your tank to look good, and then you have all this scale build up on it and you don't know how to get rid of it. No matter how much you wipe it down, it's just always getting worse. And hopefully this little bit of information will help you just with that problem, that you can know how to keep it. Having a lid goes a long way in prevention. Having less splashing goes a long way in preventing this. If you don't want your lights to be all fogged up, maybe that's where it's coming from. Maybe your filter's splashing a little bit too much. Anything we can do to help information get out there that will help someone stay in the hobby, even if it's just sharing, hey, vinegar and water goes a long way to make this little bit of unsightly buildup go away. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%.
So share this out if you can. Hopefully this helped you.
Yes. Those are my main tips that you just said.
Yeah.
evaporation isn't your friend. So any way you can fight that. And when you're adding water or your filter, the least amount of splashing around that can be done will help immensely.
Don't go in there and just splash it all around. Don't do that. Hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. But again, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And I am excited to invite you to go check out ScienceGalAquatics.com. It's up and running. And if you want to check out the YouTube channel, there's memberships that you can join for 99 cents again if you'd like to watch this podcast. But again, thank you so much. And until next time.
Until our next dilemma.
Bye.
Bye.